We start in the city of Midgar, which is run by the powerful Shinra Corporation. Cloud Strife, a former Shinra soldier now mercenary, joins the eco-terrorist group AVALANCHE. Their plan is to bomb one of Shinra's Mako reactors, which they believe drains the planet's life energy. Here we meet members of AVALANCHE, the angry gun-armed Barrett, flirty Jesse, super likable Wedge, and Biggs, who looks like Charlie Sheen. The mission is successful and stuff goes boom boom.
Okay, that was pretty cool.
Cloud has haunting visions of Sephiroth, the famous villain who's in every major Final Fantasy VII spin-off, as he escapes the scene. His vision gets even more haunting when there's a flashback of a burning house and him crawling towards it and helplessly calling out to his mother. He then encounters a flower peddler named Aerith. She gives him a flower, and here we see how the story in FF7 Remake may differ from the original. Aerith sees strange hooded figures flying in the air, and strangely enough, Cloud sees them too and helps her. Cloud and Aerith separate, and in the slums of Sector 7, Cloud meets yet another woman. This time it's his childhood friend Tifa, who's also in AVALANCHE. Here we find out Tifa manages a bar called 7th Heaven, which also works as AVALANCHE HQ. We also meet Barrett's daughter, Marlene. When entering his apartment, Cloud is shocked by a hooded man with the tattoo of 49 on his arm. He thinks it's Sephiroth, but Tifa explains he's a harmless man named Marco. Remember this guy for later. The next day, AVALANCHE has a meeting, and Barrett says Cloud isn't invited to their next mission, which deviates from the original FF7 where Cloud joins them. Instead, Cloud helps Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge get items for a bomb for this mission, as Jesse's AVALANCHE's bomb specialist. We get a glimpse of Jesse's mum, Mrs. Raspberry, and dad, who's sick from Marco overexposure, and we find out that Jessie used to be an actress. During the mission, Cloud has a childhood flashback of promising to protect Tifa. Aww. The mission is successful due to another AVALANCHE cell rescuing our heroes, and afterwards Jesse invites Cloud for a booty call.
My roommates should all be out for a while.
And because he has a pure heart, Cloud rejects her?
Let go already.
The next day, the flying things return. Jessie hurts her ankle during the attack, so she stays behind with Wedge, and Cloud has to take her place. Now, we get the same crew from the original FF7 going on the next mission to fight Shinra. But is this a coincidence? Their mission is to blow up Mako Reactor 5, and an AVALANCHE member spray paints the Shinra mascot Stamp to guide their way. Now remember Stamp carefully, he's important for later. We're introduced to over-the-top bad guy Heidegger and the president of Shinra, creatively named President Shinra. They repeatedly taunt Cloud and gang and reveal that they're framing AVALANCHE as terrorists who work with enemy nation Wutai. Cloud has a flashback of Tifa standing over Dad's corpse, but he cuts back to reality as they plan to bomb and more stuff goes boom boom, and Cloud is separated from the gang. As he falls, Cloud has a vision of another Cloud. He transforms to Sephiroth and spooks Cloud, who wakes up in a flower bed to see the flower peddler from the start of the game, Aerith. Aerith asks if Cloud can be her bodyguard in exchange for, here we go, a date. And in return, Cloud defends her from a Turk named Reno. Turks are Shinra's goons and do their dirty work. The flying hooded things return, but now it seems like their job is to move characters around if they deviate from the original FF7 plot. This time, they stop Cloud from killing Reno. While helping some orphans out, Cloud and Aerith bump into another hooded man, this time with a number 2. Remember this for later. Upon seeing him, Cloud hallucinates Sephiroth, who says the reunion is nothing to fear. We meet Aerith's mother, Elmira, who's super not friendly. Finally, one woman in the game who's not smitten by Cloud. Maybe she liked Barrett? Remembering Aerith's ex-boyfriend Zack, who was also a soldier, Elmira tells Cloud to leave and never come back. Cloud has a flashback of his mum, Claudia, telling him about, guess what? Women. She says he needs an older, more mature girl, maybe like Aerith. Cloud secretly leaves, but Aerith, who seems to know everything, finds him. Cloud and Aerith go to the infamously sleazy wall market, which is run by the underworld boss Don Corneo. They find out that Tifa has gone undercover to be one of Don Corneo's girls to get information about Shinra from him. So, Cloud and Aerith come to the rescue. To do this, they very wisely decide to also volunteer to be Corneo's girls. Dressed as a woman, Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa are presented to Don Corneo, and surprise surprise, Don Corneo chooses Cloud because everyone loves Cloud. But the three of them choose violence. After the three heroes interrogate him, they uncover a shocking plot by Shinra to drop the Sector 7 plate, threatening thousands of lives. Koneo pulls the oldest trick in the book by making them fall through a trapdoor where they had to fend for themselves first through the sewer and then a haunted rail yard. They finally reach the Avalanche team, but they're too late. Avalanche is skirmishing against Shinra, who's trying to destroy the pillar that holds up Sector 7. Wedge falls from the tower, but unlike the original story, he doesn't die. Tifa and Aerith stay to look after Wedge while Cloud makes his way up the pillar. On his way up, Biggs, the Charlie Sheen looking one, is mortally wounded. Aerith returns to town to find Barrett's daughter, Marlene, but Sung, the leader of the Turks, arrives and captures Aerith in return for Marlene's safety. Tifa joins up with Cloud and they witness Jessie sacrifice her life. She tells Cloud how guilty she is about the damage her bombs have caused, not knowing that a lot of the damage was Shinra's fault. She dies in Cloud's arms. But there's no rest as Cloud and Tifa, along with Barrett, fight off Turks, Reno and Rude. We think our heroes will win, but surprise, the hooded things come back and help the bad guys win. The Sector 7 plate is demolished, stuff goes boom boom, and Wedge probably dies in the process. In the drama, Kate Sith, an OG character who'll be in the sequel, makes a cameo. He watches the plate fall in anger. The team reconvene at Elmira's house, where she had been taking care of Marlene. Elmira explains that Aerith is the last ancient, beings who lived on the planet before people did. One day, while waiting in the train station for her husband to return from the war, Elmira spotted Aerith and her real mother, Ifalna. Ifalna and Aerith had escaped Shinra, and it's clear that Ifalna barely made it alive. With her dying breaths, Ifalna begged Elmira to look after her daughter, and that's how Elmira came to raise Aerith. Growing up, Aerith was odd. She knew that Elmira's husband died in the war even before it became official. One day, via a surprise visit, Tsung explains to Elmira that she and her mother were held captive by Shinra in the hopes that they could help find the Promised Land, a place in ancient scripture that supposedly has infinite Mako. Shinra knew that Elmira was taking care of Aerith, and when Cloud questioned why they didn't just take her, Elmira said Aerith had to come willingly or else it wouldn't work. The team leaves to help the victims of Sector 7, and they find an underground lab where Wedge has been. He's alive, which is different from the OG story where he clearly dies. Our heroes go to rescue Aerith, but before they do, side quests! There are heaps of side quests about finding kids, finding chocobos, finding music, finding lost wallets, pretty much just finding stuff. One of these side quests has a clumsy, comic relief character, Johnny, who Cloud and Tifa repeatedly bail out of trouble, who may make an appearance in the sequel. Cloud, Barrett, Aerith and Tifa infiltrate Shinra HQ. With the secret help of Mayor Domino, who's supposed to be on Shinra's side, Cloud, Tifa and Barrett make it up to the 64th floor of the Shinra building. While in some ducts, they spy on a Shinra board meeting. There's Heidegger, President Shinra, Scarlet, a baddie who uses shoulders as her footstools, and a small fat dude in a suit, Palmer. There's also the mad scientist, Professor Hojo, and Reeves, a dude with a great haircut who constantly looks shocked at Shinra's evil plans. Our heroes grab Hojo and rescue Aerith, as well as a speaking dog thing named Red 13, who now joins the party. Hojo says Cloud isn't a soldier, but before he can say anything else, the hooded things take him away. Once again, Cloud has a hallucination, this time of a headless woman in a testing tank. Cloud awakens in the room that Aerith grew up with her mum in. Aerith explains that she's an ancient, and an ancient is actually called a Cetra, just so we feel more confused. She admits she actually doesn't know where the Promised Land is. They get interrupted once again by the hooded things, which is when Red 13 gives them an official name, Whispers, and Barrett just calls them assholes. Red 13 makes official what I've been hinting at this whole video. Whispers are forcing the game's characters to live the story of the original game, but our characters are stubbornly destined for something new. If you play hard mode and complete all his missions, you'll bump into Chadley. Chadley is a character who gives you quests in exchange for materia. He reveals that he was a slave of Hojo, but thanks to you, he's now free.
I freed myself from Hojo's bondage.
Cool.
Our heroes reach the 68th floor, which contains the woman in Cloud's hallucinations. Aerith calls this woman Genova, and Cloud has a flashback of Sephiroth calling her mother. And in reality, they see Sephiroth, who knocks Cloud down. Everyone follows suit, and when they return, Sephiroth is gone, and so is Genova. Instead, there's a trail leading to the top floor of the Shinra building. The next part is a shocker. The heroes see President Shinra hanging from the roof. Barrett rescues him, but only if he takes ownership of what he's done and restores Avalanche's good name. The president finds a nicely branded Shinra gun, but right before he shoots Barrett, Sephiroth unalives him! And then he goes to Barrett and unalives him too! Which would have been a crazy plot twist if they followed through with it. But since this goes against the original story, the Whispers restore Barrett to life. Sephiroth transforms into a boss, Genova Dreamweaver, and when he beat it, it turns out he wasn't the actual Sephiroth, but Marco, the bloke with the number 49. The real Sephiroth smiles and picks up Marco's corpse. Cloud runs after him, only to see him transform into the guy with the number 2 on his arm. They get away. The heroes try escape via chopper, but it's shot down by the Turks. Cloud has a confrontation with the son of President Shinra, Rufus. Rufus escapes. Wedge, who escaped fate earlier, tries to help them, but as if suddenly remembering he died in the original game, the Whispers appear and hurl him out the window. Our friends escape with a motorbike and an old school truck and somehow end up on a highway that leads to the final boss fights. Before these fights, Aerith explains that the heroes are at destiny's crossroads. The Whispers are the voices of all the people who have gone before and returned to the planet. She indirectly says this is where the balance of fate will change, and the only way to truly beat Sephiroth is to separate from the original story. Our heroes fight 3 bosses who pay homage to the 3 villains in the film Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Beating each boss unlocks visions from the original story, which Red 13 explains is a glimpse of tomorrow if we fail here today. The first vision is of Red 13 with his cubs, the second is of a meteor destroying the planet, and the third is of Cloud fighting Sephiroth, the next is of what looks like Aerith's death. After a big gang bash, Cloud has a one-on-one with Sephiroth on top of what Sephiroth calls the edge of creation, and I take that as a symbol for the point where the developers and we the players create a brand new story separate from the OG story. It's implied that Sephiroth knows he gets defeated in the original story and now he's finding a way where he will win. Cloud loses the fight, Sephiroth vanishes and leaves the Black Feather, and the heroes agree to find him and stop him from ending the world. Now we have an ending montage! Rufus is now the president of Shinra. Hojo laughs because Genova is released. Biggs wakes up, he's alive, and Jessie's gloves are next to him, so maybe she's alive, which is a sign that destiny's changing as they both died in the original game. Then we get the big reveal. In the OG Final Fantasy VII and in Crisis Core, Zack has famously been known to have died while trying to escape the Cloud from the Shinra Mansion lab where they were both being experimented on. Now we have alternate timelines. In one timeline we see an alive Zack and Cloud heading towards Midgar, crossing paths with our unaware heroes in another timeline. The timeline when we spent most of FF7 Remake playing. And remember that Shinra dog mascot I asked you to remember? He's back, but with a different design, which means now we have alternate timelines and possibly different worlds. With a DLC that follows Final Fantasy VII Remake called Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, we get a bonus ending where our heroes head for a village called Calm, but another big reveal where the now alive Zack returns to Aerith's church only to find refugees from the Sector 7 plate collapse. All of this leaves us heading to the sequel, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, with a few big questions. Will the famous scene with Aerith still happen? Who was number 2? What's the real deal with Sephiroth and the Whispers? What is the deal with Zack, and how will the multiple timelines actually work? And we won't find out until the last game of this remake trilogy, but how will it all end?
Like and subscribe, baby!